announcing the arrival of Minister of Economy, Yang Berhormat Rafizi Ramli, and Minister of Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change, Yang Berhormat Nik Nazmi bin Nik Ahmad. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, we'd now like to invite you to stand for our national anthem, the Negaraku. Ladies and gentlemen, can we invite you to remain standing for a quick group Wi-Fi photograph? Photographers, please come up front on the stage to capture the moment. Thank you, everyone. Please take your seats. Salam Sejahtera. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Invest Malaysia 2023 by Bursa Malaysia on Reshaping Malaysia's Narrative. Distinguished guests, Tan Sri, Puan Sri, Dato' Datin, Tuan Tuan dan Puan Puan. In this installment of Invest Malaysia, co-hosted together with Maybank and CLSA, we will focus our attention on the launch of the National Energy Transition Roadmap and its flagship catalyst projects and initiatives. To commence our agenda, it gives me great pleasure to invite the Chairman of Bursa Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, to deliver his welcome remarks. Dipersilakan, Tan Sri.
Thank you, Audrey. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Berhormat Tuan Rafizi Ramli, Minister of Economy, Yang Berhormat Tuan Nik Nazmi, Nik Ahmad, Minister of Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Sri Dr. Awang Adik Hussein, Chairman of the Securities Commission, Encik Muhammad Rashdan, Muhammad Yusof, Chairman of the Energy Commission, Datuk Omar, members of the board of Bursa Malaysia, Maybank, CLSA, and all our partners, distinguished speakers and panelists, corporate leaders, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this special edition of Invest Malaysia 2023, where we congregate for the launch of the National Energy Transition Roadmap, or NETR Part 1, the flagship catalyst projects and initiatives. Now, I must say that we have a sellout crowd today, Yang Berhormat Ministers. So we do have some standing room at the back, so we apologize for those people who have yet to secure a seat. But such is actually the great interest in the subject matter. Now, in terms of timing, I must say the timing is perfect, coming right after the launch of the new economic narrative this morning by the Honorable Prime Minister on Ekonomi Madani Memperkasa Rakyat, which is basically to build a better and sustainable Malaysia together. Ladies and gentlemen, back in 2021, in September, when the government pledged the commitment to be a net zero greenhouse gas emissions nation as early as 2050, many of us who were about to attend the COP26 at Glasgow were very much relieved, because that meant that Malaysia has joined the more than 90% of global economies that have pledged to net zero by mid-century. Now, the challenge then is that how do we get there? Well, based on the biennial update report, number 4, as submitted to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change in December 2022, Malaysia has a gross greenhouse gas emissions of some 376 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Now, 52% of the emissions came from the energy sector, and another 17% came from the transportation sector. We are, however, fortunate that we have some 18 million hectares of forest cover that's able to sequester some 256 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent from the environment in Malaysia. That means that on a net basis, we have a net emission of 116 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And that's actually the figure that we have to bring down to zero come 2050. Now, obviously, we must protect that 18 million forest cover that we have. And to me, that would be another separate conversation which we've been having with Minister Nik Nazmi over the past many months, and that conversation will continue. But on the other hand, if we need to lower our emissions, naturally, we have to address the source of the emission, which is 69% coming from the energy and the transportation sector. And this is where the launch of the National Energy Transition Roadmap is very much lauded. And as highlighted by Minister Rafizi last week, our efforts in energy transition have earned Malaysia the recognition of being the best in Southeast Asia in the Global Energy Transition Index by the World Economic Forum. It acknowledges Malaysia's progress and plans in ensuring a timely and appropriate energy transition. And among other factors, the index takes into consideration our nation's readiness to switch to more environmentally friendly energy sources. And this achievement is particularly significant and comes at a crucial stage as we gear up for the upcoming climate negotiation at COP26 in Dubai later this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy transition presents a significant economic opportunity, particularly for developing countries like Malaysia. Well, it's also very much reflected in our capital market. We have some 31 public listed companies in the energy sector, representing 2.2% of the 38 billion ringgit of the total market capitalization. Now, obviously, all this conversation about the energy transition has created significant interest in some of the renewable energy players. We have seen the performance of some of the energy related companies listed on Bursa Malaysia is quite strong, and some of them have achieved year-on-year market capitalization growth of more than 70% this year. And obviously, over the past week, we have seen a lot of interest in the Tenaga stocks too. We have seen significant inflows of foreign investors coming back to the market. Well, the reason many of us are here today or watching online is that we recognize that the topics to be covered are very much multifaceted and have vast impact. The energy transition extends beyond climate benefits. It has the full potential to safeguard, drive, and generate rich rewards in many sectors of the economy. And our discussions this afternoon will provide deeper insight into these developments and touch on financing needs and opportunities to unlock our energy transition. And speaking of financing, I would like to highlight Wabi Nazmi's statement in the Malaysia Transition Energy Outlook report published by ARENA, whereby Malaysia would require an investment of 637 billion ringgit up to 2050 to increase its renewable energy capacity. Now, some of you might be asking, how does that fit in within the context of our carbon market? Well, if you look at the numbers, about 60% of the 600 billion ringgit required will be commercially viable on its own. But some, as much as 25%, will require some form of carbon pricing. And this is where our efforts at Bursa Malaysia to develop the Bursa carbon market become significant. And this was very much based on the mandate given by the government when we were asked to launch the Bursa Carbon Exchange last year. In fact, the exchange was launched within Wabi Nazmi's first week in office. Thank you, Wabi, for doing that for us. And we had our first two contracts traded or auctioned in March this year. Now, this is obviously one of the building blocks towards establishing carbon pricing that will help finance some of the actions and investments required for Malaysia to achieve our net zero target as early as 2050. Now, for us at Malaysia, we are fortunate because we hold immense potential to generate high quality carbon credits from the wealth of nature that we have, the 18 million hectares of forest that I mentioned, as well as the technology-based resources to support our energy transition. Now, as I mentioned, 55% of our total land area is covered by forests, and we have some 46 trillion cubic feet of carbon storage capacity in our depleted oil and gas fields. And apart from that, there are plenty of opportunities for low-hanging fruits, such as methane recovery from palm oil mill effluent, POME, industrial wastewater and landfills, which can be harnessed for biogas electricity generation. Ladies and gentlemen, back to today's program. We will obviously have later the keynote address by Wabi Rafizi, and after that, we'll be launching the National Energy Transition Roadmap. Wabi Rafizi will then be joined by Wabi Nazmi and Encik Rashdan in a panel discussion to be moderated by Dr. Omar, our CEO, where they will discuss how the transition will propel Malaysia's economic growth and sustainability agenda. And after that, we will have the UM group presenting on the development of renewable energy zones, and Samrabi Property will then share their efforts in promoting solar solutions to residential townships. And Petronas, being at the forefront of energy development and the nation's energy sovereignty, will be sharing on carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS. And subsequently, we will have a session to delve into ESG research, followed by a conversation with some of the leading hyperscalers operating in Malaysia. We're talking about Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Malaysia. And we will then conclude our program with a sharing session by Tenaga Nasional, which is currently hot in the market. Now, obviously, to do this kind of program, it requires great support from everyone at the two ministries. And beyond that, we are especially grateful for the strong support of our partners here at Invest Malaysia, and in particular from Maybank, as well as from CLSA. So to that, we thank you for your support. And on that note, it gives me great pleasure to invite Maybank Group President and CEO, Datuk Khairul Ramli, to deliver his remarks. Datuk.